Hello, and welcome to Spacefish Inferno. Out of the 10 or so new shmups that I've cleared this year, meaning new to me, not necessarily brand new, out of all of those, Darius II gave me the most trouble by far. I invite you along on my journey through this twisted game. Darius II comes to us courtesy of Taito, all the way back from 1989. There are 4 phases of revelation that you go through as you try to clear this game. At first you think it's hard to clear because your ship is slow and has a huge hitbox, which is not a good combo against fast bullets. Then you realize it's hard to clear because recovery is almost impossible in this game unless your name is Prickly Angler. So you need to make it as far as possible into the game on your initial life. Then, you notice how bullet visibility declines as your ship powers up, and of course this happens as you start to get into the tougher later levels. And finally, you have the psychological thunderclap that is this shmuplation's interview, which reveals that the game was originally designed for what we know now as the easy difficulty, or difficulty A, and it was changed at the last minute because of arcade operators, to what we know as the normal difficulty, or difficulty B. So if you're playing on the default settings, you're essentially playing on hard mode that was added just before the game was shipped out. I got the marvelous Darius Cozmic Collection during the last Steam Christmas sale, basically just for Darius Gaiden. I didn't think I would play much of the first 2 games, since they're pretty old school compared to what I usually prefer. But I was pleasantly surprised by Darius I and how breezy of a clear it was. Both 1 and Gaiden were relatively quick and fun 1cc's. In my naive foolishness, I thought I'd clear Darius II as well, just to complete the Cozmic Collection trilogy. I was a sweet summer child, frolicking next to a sheer cliff drop into the sea of dashed dreams. I ended up putting more time into Darius II than into 1 and Gaiden combined, and still, the clear eluded me. I could sometimes get to some of the later stages of the route, but I would always die at some points and end up in an unavoidable downward spiral. I kind of developed a taste for some of the merciless design in this game, like how you need to be on full attention from the very first stage, because you need to collect and keep as many of the shields as you can, so that when the challenge starts to ramp up, you have a safety net of several hits that you can take. There is no sleepwalking at any point in this game, which is cool, but recovery is so obnoxious that I would outright call it unfair design. So after getting frustrated by almost but not quite making it to the end, I stopped playing the game, for about 7 months. What happened then was that just recently, I ended up watching the STG Weekly episode on Darius II, which was excellent and reignited my interest in the game. I think I tried my hand at both the easy and default difficulty when I first started playing, but this time I played exclusively on easy. I don't usually mess around with the difficulty settings of arcade games, and not because of any elite gamer reasons, but because for me the appeal of shmups is that all of us are on the same journey of trying to beat the same games. Just to be super clear, I'm not talking about novice modes like the one in Crimson Clover, which are an excellent addition to just about any shmup. I'm talking about stuff like changing the dip switches to make the game easier or more difficult. This is just a personal preference of mine to mostly stick to default settings. No offense meant to anyone who does otherwise. But when it comes to Darius II, it really feels to me like the easy and default settings are mislabeled. Easy feels more like the normal difficulty in other games, and the default normal is closer to hard mode. And, well, that's because it's exactly what happened during development. Prickly Angler calls easy mode the better designed game in the STG Weekly video. You can't even get your ship to full power on the default settings, because the game just doesn't give you enough power-ups, which is kind of funny. So contrary to what I usually do, The run you're about to see is played on easy mode. I highly recommend trying it out if you find the game too mean. A strange aspect of all the Darius games in this collection is that you have to choose which kind of rapid fire you're going to play with, as it can make a huge difference. If you've seen my Darius Gaiden video, you'll know that I was kind of frustrated by this, because playing with the popular 30Hz rapid fire felt like I was skipping content with how powerful it was. But the default fire rates made recovery after dying very difficult. For Darius II, the Cozmic Collection has 2 different auto-fires mapped by default. From what I understand, 5Hz simulates normal human tapping speed, while 20Hz is, well, 4 times faster, and can really melt bosses at close range. To refer back to the STG Weekly video one more time, I learned that the original arcade PCB had the option to enable 12Hz auto-fire, so that's what I chose for this run. It felt like a nice middle ground between the slightly sluggish 5 and inhumanly speedy 20Hz. One final thing before we get into the run. If you're like me and you don't usually play old school shmups, you might have tried the game once or twice on the Cozmic Collection and decided that it's not for you. And certainly Darius II is kind of an acquired taste. But just like with Darius I, I ended up enjoying my time with this game more than I expected to. It's a demanding game, but also a captivating one. It keeps you on your toes from beginning to end. I feel like when compared to some of its contemporaries, it's a little less about memorization and more about split-second dodging, which can result in some hilarious stuff, as you'll see soon in my run. And just like with all the title shmups, the music, the visuals, the vibes are all excellent. So, let's get into it. And so the run starts. As I said in the intro, the interesting thing about this game and its challenge is the fact that you have to concentrate from the very first stage onwards, because the thing with this game is, as you just saw, I picked up a shield power-up, and if you look at the left upper corner, you see the word strength and the number 3 beside it, and that means that I have 3 shields collected. And the interesting thing is that, from what I understand, you can infinitely stack shield power-ups in this game, so if you manage to collect all the shields in the game and you never get hit, you can have like something like 20 shields by the end. But of course, I'm going to get hit. But I will try to collect and keep enough shield power-ups so that I can tank some of the hits from the later very hard bosses. And so I need to, even though this first stage isn't that difficult, especially after you've played it for a while, I still need to be careful because the hitbox of your ship is pretty big, and when you have the shield power up, I feel like the hitbox is even bigger. Like the hitbox of the shield is bigger than the hitbox of your ship. So I need to play very carefully. I need to kind of dodge as far away as from the bullets and the enemies as possible. So it doesn't look that bad. Like, just if you look at this game being played, it looks easy, but it's really not. So that's kind of an interesting part of this game. So like with this boss, I don't try going through the lasers and the bullets. I macro dodge. You can see me going very high on the screen, and that's because I don't want to get clipped. I don't want my shield to get clipped with the bullets. And yeah, you can use those huge bombs to take care of the boss very quickly. And I believe you can use the bomb in the first phase also, but it's kind of dangerous, so I don't do it. And here I'm going to take a very kind of what I believe is a very easy route through the game. Well, as easy as this game can get. So I won't go through the upper routes or the lower routes. I'm just going to squeeze through the center like A, B, E, something. But I'll talk about the levels and the level selections later on in this commentary. So The first level wasn't too bad, but the interesting thing about the first level was that you really didn't have ground enemies because you had that huge pool of lava. But the ground enemies in this game are extremely dangerous. Like these tanks, these blue tanks are horrifying because it's actually really hard to dodge the missiles that they shoot. And actually, after clearing this game, I realized that I maybe shouldn't have. I usually try to kind of destroy them as soon as possible, and I get low on the screen, closer to the ground. Maybe I feel like I maybe should dodge the missiles by moving upwards and then going down to destroy the tanks. I don't know, so I think I've already lost some of my shields by this point, so yeah. And you get these power-ups by destroying these waves of gray enemies, like you just saw me doing there. And in some parts and in some stages, you can actually destroy them in such a way that you lose the power-up because the waves can appear, the power-ups can appear very low on the screen and they'll just drift away before you manage to collect them, which is extremely annoying. So there are a couple of sections that I've kind of made a mental note for myself where I want to destroy the power-up carrying waves in a certain way. So the second boss, very easy, very nice to do. And I really love the aesthetics and vibes of this game. Like, you start this boss battle and there is no music. And then you get this second phase of the boss, which is surprising. And you get this very mellow, very dreamy track instead of like the usual adrenaline pumping stuff. And here I used that bomb in the center of the screen to take care of those shield spheres that guard the boss, so I can proceed to this next phase. And here you again see me, because I need to be shooting at the center of the enemy, but I usually stay off center because I don't want to get hit by any stray bullets. I'm just kind of maximizing my kind of dodging area here. I think in this stage, a new part of Darius II's challenge starts to creep in, and that's bullet visibility, because these backgrounds are very beautiful for the time, but they kind of obscure some of the bullets, especially as you get this power-up, as you get this blue sphere and you're shooting like all kinds of these bullets and stuff. And they also help to obscure the screen and kind of make it more difficult to see some of the bullets, like these purple ones. Like, again, it's not too bad when you're just watching the replay, but when you're in the heat of the action and you need to keep track of the enemies coming from behind, coming from the front, coming from all sides, it can get pretty challenging, especially with that huge shield hitbox and the fact that you want to maintain the shield as much as possible. So you just saw me take a hit there. And there's quite a bit of these mid-bosses in the stages, and the thing that you can do is point blank them as soon as they appear so that you can get some initial damage done to them. And I'm sure that there's some like even better point blank tactics in this game that you can learn and memorize and stuff, especially if you're using higher auto-fire frequencies. As I said in the introduction, I'm using 12 Hz here, and I'm sure that it's an advantage over the basic like tapping speed of like 5 Hz or so. But I think if you're using like 20 Hz that the M2 collection has by default, I'm sure that those bosses go down even quicker. I really enjoy the music and the visuals and just kind of the atmosphere of the game, just listening to this track and the way that they transition through this warning screen to the boss music and the shout that you get here. Super cool. Again, this boss, not too bad once you've done it a couple of times. I think you can damage the boss. Like, I keep shooting at the head, but I'm not sure if that's actually if it's more effective than just shooting at the body. I'm guessing a little bit. So here you just need to be mindful of how it moves from side to side and just kind of not lose focus. And again, it keeps shooting those bullets from its tail that are kind of hard to see, but not too bad to dodge. So now I'm at 3 shields, and I'm sure that I could have way more if I could have dodged everything up until this point. But still, 3 shields, that's okay for this point for me. So this stage, again, with Darius II, it doesn't look too bad, but this stage is super dangerous. You can see me going to the right side of the screen, and that's because I want to destroy those ground enemies as soon as they appear like these red blobs, before they have a chance to shoot, because it's actually pretty difficult to dodge in this game. So yeah, staying more on the right-hand side of the screen, and yeah, those blue tanks, you want to dispatch them immediately. Here, again, I take a hit to the shield. Now I have only 2 shields left, which is not good at all. So I think up until this point, this has been a pretty average run. So with this boss, I think the thing with this boss is that the blue lasers are actually kind of quick compared to your ship speed, so you don't want to be in the center firing range of the enemy when it shoots those lasers. So again, maybe staying a little bit off center of the mid-boss is good for dodging. And here, this enemy wave that you get a shield from, I believe, yeah. There's been several runs where I've destroyed it with my green lasers as soon as the wave appeared, and then I've lost the power-up, and that's been devastating to the run. And again, with those red ground enemies, you want to destroy them as quickly as possible. So the red crab boss is pretty fun, and there's a certain way of doing it, which makes it a little bit easier. So you want to destroy the legs, most of the legs, but not completely. And then this is a strat that I learned from watching Prickly Angler play. You kind of misdirect the boss to one side, and then you destroy the final leg, so the boss gets stuck at the side of the screen, so you have more room to dodge. And it'll be a safer fight. It's a fun boss to do. So now, in regards to the zones, when I first started playing this game, I actually went for zone N instead of M that I'm doing here. And I don't quite remember my reasoning at the time, but the thing with the zone, the biggest difference is the boss. And the thing with the zone M boss that we're going to see soon here is that it's kind of random, and you need to adapt on the fly, and you can get some good RNG or some bad RNG. Now, I'm sure that you can learn to do it without taking any hits or anything, but for a kind of a average player, I think the boss of this zone is a little bit random. The boss in zone N, I feel, is a little less random, but it's also more difficult. Like, there's plenty, it's shooting like lasers and bullets everywhere. So I think just for variety's sake, I decided to do zone M when I returned to this game just recently, because many of my runs died at the zone N boss, so I decided to try zone M for a change. And we'll see we'll see what the gods and goddesses of RNG decided to do for me for this run. And again, with this mid-boss, I point blank it's right from the start so that it loses a lot of health and dies very quickly, because, again, some of my early runs died to this turtle mid-boss because it was alive for far too long, and it's got to shoot a lot of difficult patterns that I couldn't dodge. Here I'm losing some shields to the terrain, so there's a lot of tight squeezes here, and again, it doesn't look too difficult when you're just watching the replay, but you need to be super careful about positioning yourself. And again, I'm taking a hit there, because if you take too many hits, your shield is just going to get eaten away, and then you're going to be in trouble when you hit the boss of this zone. So now I'm at 5 shields, which isn't super bad, but it could be a lot better. So now we're at the boss, and we're getting this pre-boss ship thing, and I'm going to do my own very safe strat, where I destroy just a couple of those turrets in the front, and then I just chill here for like a half a minute and enjoy the music. I enjoy the sprite work instead of going into that bullet barrage, because, well, again, your ship's hitbox is huge and there's lots of bullets flying around here, so why not just like take a little break and, you know, have some ginger tea and stuff. And now the boss appears. The first phase is super easy. You're shooting at the ship part that it's using as its cover. Nothing complicated here. But now this phase starts, and I believe that the movement of this boss is random, and when it decides to shoot those bullets. And so here I get very bad. I get cornered, and then it shoots those patterns at me when I'm in the corner, and they're just impossible to dodge for me. So I lose all of my shields during this boss. I went from 5 to 0. But I'm alive, and that's the most important thing. And now the beginning of the next stage is just nerve-wracking, because I want to get the first shield power-up as quickly as possible. I want to be as safe as possible, and this is where the challenge starts to ramp up. But I believe I get the shield right away. No, I don't. So I need to just be on my toes here, be very, very careful with those ground enemies. The ground enemies are the worst in this game. But I got the shield, so now I have a little bit more leeway in my playing. So you can see me getting to the right-hand side of the screen and getting lower in the screen, because I want to destroy all possible ground targets as soon as they appear. So yeah, just trying to play very safely here, without making mistakes. Because I'm going to need some shields for the latter portion of this stage, which is pretty challenging. And something really funny is going to happen soon. So please look forward to that. If you lose your power, if you die before getting to this part, I feel like this part is very, very difficult to get through without any power-ups. And here I did something really stupid and went for that power-up, and then this mid-boss appeared and just ate all of my shields. Very frustrating. And now I'm going to do something really stupid. I get confused by those things dropping from the ceiling, and then I make a weird motion because I had the idea that I should be dodging those things coming from the ceiling, like they would continue from left to right. And so I just kind of stayed in place and got spiked, and now I just died and lost all of my power. Which is a huge thing in this game, because nothing dies as you expect it to, and it's super dangerous. But basically this is the earliest point in the game that you want to have your death at, so I still have a chance. But the thing is, without my power-ups, this boss becomes way more difficult. It just takes forever. Like, if I had all of my power-ups, I think the first tentacle would die right about now, and then the second tentacle would die right about now, and then I could proceed to the next phase. But instead of that, I just need to keep dodging these crazy bullets. So, next phase, I'm going to do this counterclockwise motion to evade the small octopi, but I get kind of trapped, not trapped by, kind of confused by a bullet pattern, so I take a death here. That's okay, I'm actually playing really well at this point, doing some crazy dodging, because it's so hard to dodge in this game. But yeah, so very interesting. And what happens here is I go to zone X, but that's not the zone that I was supposed to go, because I was actually practicing for zone Y, which is a little different. And I wanted to play zone Y. It has the same final boss as this zone, so it wasn't that bad. But I wanted to clear zone Y because it has the my favorite ending screen of the game. But at this point, I was so nervous that I actually chose Zone X by mistake. I had played it a couple of times because I think I heard quickly anglers say that Zone X is probably the easiest final zone, or at least easier than Zone Y. So I had tried it a couple of times, but I didn't see a huge difference in challenge, so I initially wanted to go to Zone Y, but yeah, so I chose this zone by mistake. So now this is very freestyle play, especially as I have no power-ups. And the thing is that I have a lot of extends, but they're actually not worth much because I think I'm going to start chain dying very soon because there's just a huge amount of enemies, a huge amount of bullets on the screen. And with my power down shots, it's just kind of, it's very hard to get through. But I'm actually playing super well at this point because again, remember that your hitbox is huge and dodging in this game is just super dangerous all of the time. So I'm actually pretty satisfied. Even though it looks like I'm just dying over and over, I'm doing pretty okay. Yeah, but like this mid-boss is pretty dangerous, and then you get this enemy rush from all sides. Like, how are you supposed to dodge that without having all the power-ups? Or destroy all of that without having all of the power-ups? And again, I die again. Now I actually got a very rare power-up there, which gives you some of the power-ups, which is super nice to have and very lucky. I'm not sure if you can influence getting that kind of rainbow pellet power-up, but maybe it was RNG, maybe it was Lady Luck. But anyway, now we're at the final boss. I have a one final life in stock in case I die. And the really nice thing about this final boss is that you can actually beat it quite easily without being powered up, and that's nice because I got cocky and I got too close to the boss and got hit by the big wave. And the thing with the final fin, the center fin, is that you need to destroy it from behind and then again get back to the front of the boss. And I know I'm repeating this, but this doesn't look that bad when you're accustomed to bullet hell dodging and stuff, but this is like insane playing. Like this moment right here, that's just like inhuman when you're playing Darius II, at least for my skill level. Again, I'm sure you can learn this game in a way that it becomes super easy and stuff, but for me, this game was very difficult. It's the toughest shmup that I've cleared this year. It's kind of funny because right before this one, I cleared Armed Police Batrider Advanced Course, and it's actually going to be my next commentary video that I do. And that game is considered to be very challenging, and I was very intimidated by like starting to try and clear Batrider. But it was easier than clearing this game on easy, which is like super funny. But yeah, I know I concentrated a lot on the difficulty aspect of this game because it's the thing that kind of, as you start to play this game more and try going for the clear, it's the thing that you notice most of all. But there's like lots of cool aspects to this game. Like, again, the visuals and the music, the vibes are all super awesome. It has that title touch, and I even kinda grew to like the kind of dodging with the big hitbox stuff that I don't usually like. I'm not super sure what it is about this game. Maybe it's the fact that, again, you can stack up those shields, and you kinda need to stack up those shields, so you're kind of playing 100% from the get-go. So maybe that's the aspect that made this kind of interesting. And the fact that you don't really need to kind of super memorize this game like you would need to, like with R-Type, I believe. So you can kind of, you need to practice it, you need to kind of learn some of the tough sections, but it's not a pure memorizer. So as you can see, I chose the wrong final zone by mistake, and I still made it through. Just kind of by just kind of dodging by the skin of my teeth and stuff. Yeah. So, I'm very glad to have completed the Darius Cozmic Collection. I know there's a lot of those different versions of the game, but I'm pretty happy with like clearing the Darius 1 old version, then Darius 2 easy mode, and then Darius Gaiden on 12 Hz auto-fire. I think I'll come back to and explore some of the zones in Darius Gaiden at some points, but yeah, I'm happy to have played all of these games in the collection, and I'm very excited to play G Darius at some point in the future. So yeah, that's it for Darius 2. Hope you enjoyed the commentary, hope you enjoyed the run. Have a nice day, and I'll see you again soon.